BeTheTalk, episode 221, featuring Galya Westler. Welcome to BeTheTalk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Galya Westler. Galya, are you ready to talk?
I am.
Galya Westler is a tech entrepreneur and female leader and mentor. Galya is the founder of a blockchain startup, Plazus, which is a communications tool for large groups to manage and reward members where data is owned and controlled by the members. Galya, welcome to the talk.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Nathan.
So your talk is all about building these platforms that give people a chance to connect with each other. It's about social learning and about connecting on social. And you talk about really the highs and the lows of social connectedness. So please, Galya, take us behind the talk.
Yeah, for sure. So, when I was approached, I was actually approached to deliver this talk as part of one of the biggest TEDx's in Vancouver called TEDx Stanley Park. They wanted to have somebody in the slot of technology. And so I came with the idea and I told them, we build technology with two companies that I founded. And I'm very much enthusiast of blockchain technology and social networks. And that was actually right around the same time when we started thinking about building Plazus, which is the current company. And I came to them with the approach that, a lot of research is showing that people are suffering from social media and loneliness, and actually overall loneliness in the whole world. And so when I did the research, my approach to it was from the addiction perspective, that there's other things that we can do other than just leaving all of these platforms and not participating in it. I was looking at it from a very technical perspective of how we can continue to use it, but in a different way.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the social media envy is really off the chart. I don't want to make this too personal about me, but sometimes with all these other interviews going on, sometimes I want to think, hey, that's my thing. And that's such a silly thing. But I wonder if we all have weird things like that we're all getting more and more heightened about. It may be someone has a newer, fashion, style or a hairstyle or a trip somewhere or whatnot. We all have these things. What can we do to start, deprogramming ourselves from these bad things while continuing to use the good parts of technology? Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly true.
What can we do to actually bring the good and deprogram ourselves? Any tips, for me?
Yeah. Okay. So when you ask that question, it needs to be from a different angle. So it's nothing that we need to do. Sorry, I didn't understand your question. I was like, huh? So what we need to do is look at it from different perspective, which means that as we are naturally using all of these social networks, which is actually a great thing because it was initially there to connect us all. But the problem is that when you look at the constellation of being part of a very, very big social network, such as Facebook, for example, it actually harms us. Now, when I talk about the different social media addiction, I talk about how these companies are placing hooks in our brain, and it's actually based on a book named Hooked by Nir Eyal, when he says that every time, like for example, I thought we were going to do like a Facebook Live video right now. And I was thinking, okay, it's going to be like a Facebook Live, and how many likes will I get? And are people going to comment on my hair? People are commenting on my dress. People are commenting on my appearance, which is completely irrelevant. But nonetheless, they do, right? So what happens is when they make a good comment, we're all like, oh yeah, I feel good about myself, right? So all these positive affirmations make me check Facebook and Instagram and all the other social networks even more. So that's called positive affirmation. So the thing is that we should understand that this is the constellation. But the message in my talk is talking about how we can continue to use it, but within our own communities. So what I'm launching in that TEDx talk is a movement of authenticity, which means that when you realize that we actually have limitations of how we can consume all these relationships, and the magic number is about 150. which tells you that the way people communicate effectively is within smaller groups. And these smaller groups are called groups of interest or mutual interest, which means that, if you have a Facebook group, or say you have a Slack group or Telegram channel that is all about, BeTheTalk, and it's all about speakers that talk about a specific topic, then it's interesting enough for me to join that group and have meaningful connections. So that's what I mean by looking at it from a different angle, which is connecting with your community.
Well, and that's certainly very, very apropos for right now. I love that you're keeping it real, Galya, because, with the talk show format we have, you can't see this in the podcast talk universe, but when you join us live on Facebook Live for Live Universe, you'll see that I have a talk show format. Galya is one of 3 people that I'm interviewing, and we just had a tech issue, no fault of our own, and we're all bummed kind of because we're not on Facebook Live getting all the likes and the comments and the love like Galya said. So it's a little bit meta right now as we're recording this, but it absolutely has a little bit of an effect. And for someone like me or for you, if you're some kind, in a provider or a host situation, or a client provider situation, I have concerns about, hey, because the technology went down on me, what are my other guests like Galya going to think about the technology dropping the ball? It looks like I dropped the ball. So there's all kinds of issues that happen because of this technology. But then again, on the other hand, we find a way to wrap around the technology and get done what needs to be done. The other piece on that, Galya, is, 150 people. We've just crossed the threshold of 150 alumni not too long ago, about a month or so ago. We crossed that threshold. So that is something that I'm always very concerned about, is being able to connect with and reconnect and stay connected and connect Talk Universe and Talk alumni, all of you, to one another long after the actual interview. So, that rule of thumb of being connected to 150 other people kind of max is a really good rule of thumb. Any other tips for us, Galya?
Yeah, I think that, it's just going back to the whole community aspect. I think that, the worry that you've mentioned of, oh my God, it's got technical difficulties and people are not going to like me. I'm part of a group called Toastmasters. I don't know if you've heard. Oh,
I've been in most of us have probably been in Toastmasters on the line here. A whole bunch of us. That's awesome. Yeah.
So Toastmasters International is a great organization, and they've got different clubs all over the world. And I'm part of the club called the Entrepreneurs, the Vancouver Entrepreneurs Toastmasters Club. And, it really reminds me that every week that I go to the meeting, and you have to prepare your speeches, or you just do impromptu like table topics, the environment is so supportive, Nathan. They are so supportive, which means that you have room to make mistakes. And unfortunately today, in the world that we live in, especially in the big social networks, there's no room for mistakes. So if, for example, my hair is standing or there's technical difficulties or something is happening, people are going to start criticizing me because they don't know me. They're not part of my circles, right? And so it's really important for you to build your immediate circle of family and friends that love you. And then in other circles, which is what I'm talking about, the mutual interest groups, such as the Toastmasters group or whichever other group that you belong to. And then, when you ask me, people will ask me what's going to be in the future, or I think that in the future, the big social networks are going to be simply directories of individuals. And so if we treat it that way, if we actually really take the movement of authenticity seriously, then we're able to implement it in a very simple way by connecting with the communities and the groups that we mostly care about.
Well, we've been enjoying this conversation with Galya Westler. We've been talking about connectivity. We've been talking about social networking. We've been talking about how we respond and treat one another. And we're going to hear more from Galya Westler in just a moment when we return for the Blitz Round. People ask, how could I start a 7-day-a-week podcast? It's because of what I've learned from my mentors. Some of the best mentors in history aren't around anymore. They've left hours of one-on-one mentoring behind in their books. Each month at Classics on Tap, I record a new chapter from a classic business book to help you make a difference. Download your first chapter at classicsontap.com. And we're back with Galya Westler. It is time for the Blitz Round. This is the part of the interview where I ask Galya a series of either-or questions related to her TEDx Stanley Park talk. Are you ready, Galya?
I am.
All right. First question. Did you apply or were you selected?
I was selected. I've been approached by some of the members of the committee, and they told me that they think I would be great for the section of technology at TEDx Stanley Park. And so I went and I did a very short interview, and they accepted me, I guess.
Outstanding. All right. So are you an improviser, a memorizer, or a blender?
I'm completely an improviser. It was actually a challenge for me to write the script, get the script approved, and then execute on the script because I improvise. I actually relate to what Stephen was saying is that the way I'm able to deliver very powerful talks is because I'm extremely natural. I don't prepare. I prepare like only the highlights, and then I improvise in between.
So now it sounds like that you had to be kind of a little bit of a memorizer in the way that they kind of focused you. So am I reading too much into that? Did you, if I understand you, you're a natural improviser, but they still had you script the whole thing out. So did you use the script and basically improvise off the script, or did you try to memorize the script, or did you do something else with the script? Did you do nothing with the script?
So I'll tell you what I did. It's actually an interesting behind the scenes stories. They changed my script about 150 times, and they wanted the message to be, you have to tell people to put their phone away. And I said, put the phone away. I'm addicted as well. I'm not going to put my phone away. I love my phone. I'm addicted to this thing. I think we should use it even more, but differently. And so they got a little bit upset. And so they changed the script even more. So what I did to change it back is I implemented this really amazing technique. If you have time, I can tell you. But basically what it means is that I had a way of like getting the audience in and being engaged. So I changed the script completely. A week before the show, you do the general rehearsals. I came with the outfit, with the hair, with the makeup, and I gave my new speech. They didn't even notice.
All right. Hey, Talk Universe, don't try this at home, but this is why we have BeTheTalk, because we want to hear the backstory of all this stuff. So, Galya, I'm glad that worked for you. I don't know, I'm glad you pulled it off. So, that's awesome. In addition to basically controlling the script or whatever we want to call that. In addition to that, what's a tip, tool, or a technique besides that helped you prepare?
I think the best way of looking at it is because, first of all, you need to understand that when you're standing on a stage, it is not about you, it's about the audience. Mm-hmm. So the whole structure and writing and preparing for the speech and actually delivering the speech is about the audience. What is the message that you think people could benefit from? And so you start from there. The second thing that I would say is you have to be emotionally connected to what you're going to say, which means that the way I practice, mind you, it's a mess. It really is a mess, the way I did the whole preparation. But at the end of the day, I connected to it. And what I did to prepare for it, and I did have to memorize at the end the script, is I prepared the headline. And then I remembered more or less what I wanted to talk about in between the headlines, and then I just delivered it. But it's kind of like what Stephen was saying. I really prepared myself to be relaxed and to be really, really confident and emotionally connected to the message that I want to share with the world.
We've been enjoying the Blitz Round with Galya Westler. Her TEDx Stanley Park talk is online and it's available for you. You can go to our notes page at BeTheTalk.com and be able to link and click a link to watch that, as well as you can go to our show notes page to check out or type in her website, which is Plazus.com. It's PLAZUS.com. PLAZUS.com. And we're going to be back in just a moment with Galya Westler for the 30-second final word of advice. Everyone wants to change the world, but not everyone knows the first step. Before you can change the world with your talk, it has to be selected. So grab the templates, timelines, and tools that I use to get my talk selected at BeTheTalk.com. And we're back with Galya Westler. What's the final word of advice for Talk Universe today?
So what I would say is continue using social media, connect with your community, and also be aware of all the dangerous aspects of social media. And then, if you had more time, we would talk about the blockchain solution. But I think that if we become aware and if we know, the kind of groups that we want to belong to, we can actually launch a movement of authenticity together.
Galya Westler, thank you so much for coming on the Talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.